body that's casting light from it, so you're looking at a sphere rather than an ellipse. It's a totally different configuration.
Well, it's weird. I'll give you that.
The best thing to do is...
And, you know, it does seem to be illuminating the astronaut. Now, what about the possibility that the photograph itself is simply overexposed, terribly overexposed? Is that possible?
Well, how can you overexpose a section of it in such a fashion? Look at the rest of the photograph. Look at
that's a good point.
Look at the ground and the topography here to the left side of the photograph, the little ridge.
Yep, I see it.
All right, and you look at the stones that are here on the ground as well, the ones that are laying flat.
And they're not overexposed.
They're not overexposed either.
Yeah.
So once again, we're talking about interesting photographs showing interesting features to cause us to talk about a lot of other possibilities.
Yeah, okay. So that's pretty interesting, all right. You're right, the rest of it is not overexposed. There's a single point source for this light, and it's an extremely strong light. All right, now, how about this, Doctor? If such a thing was going on as we see pictured here, how could the astronauts not have been going, oh, my God, there's something above us, something lighting it. It's like the sun has come out.
Well, how would we know that they didn't? You know, there is some telemetry. I recall, I believe that was from Apollo 15, where they were talking about, they were seeing some type of object or what have you, and Mission Control was asking them to switch to a different ultra-high frequency so that it wasn't on the broadcast channel.
Is that so?
So, I mean, these particular frequencies are monitored expressly by their governing agencies. So,
do you happen to have any audio of that? I would sure love to hear it.
I have recalled that the transcript is in one of the publications, and I will make a note. And
I know there's transcripts going around, Glenn, but what I'm saying is, do you know anybody who has actual audio of that?
I once recall seeing it on a documentary. There was that short film clip. I believe it also showed the lunar rover moving around, and there was a section in there, and I'm going to have to see. I cannot recall off the top of my head. I mean, there's such an immense amount of material. If I find it, I'll definitely forward it to you.
Okay. All right. I agree. That's weird. Well, let's go down. What in the world have we got here?
This is a Lunar Orbiter 4 picture, and it shows a certain area of the moon, and we're looking at a very straight, for lack of a better description, cigar-shaped object parked right next to the crater. And you can tell if you look at this from the photographic standpoint, the sun is coming from the top of the picture or the north of the picture, illuminating the southern wall of the crater. Mm-hmm. And then it would be like putting a cigar or pencil right next to it. And perfectly straight, and in configuration as well, cylindrical, and casting a very irregular shadow behind it as well. That can be due to a number of possibilities, either it not being totally on the ground or what have you. So once again, an interesting shot, and certainly does not look like a natural feature.
No, it doesn't. But it's still not what I would call clear evidence. I mean, for example, if we got a shot of, an unquestioning shot of a building, Glenn, or, I don't know, something that clearly everybody who looks at it says that ain't natural. Mm-hmm. Now, this is interesting, but it doesn't, come up to that high a bar.
Yeah, well, that's based on individual interpretation, and everybody, of course, has that right to do that. When you look at lunar orbiter pictures, you're looking at a different quality of a shot, much earlier in the space program. This is not a direct picture taken by a Hasselblad camera.
Right.
So we're talking a completely different quality of photo here.
All right, next one. Lunar Orbiter 4. You're claiming this is actual construction activity.
On this particular shot, there are some numerics into the frame itself. So someone else at the source was clearly doing some research on this particular picture.
Oh, so those numbers came that way from NASA?
That's correct.
So
there's areas in here where and it goes, I believe, as far as 5, since this is a smaller crop version of the original picture. And it shows particular areas of interest here. And in conjunction with this shot, there seems to be an area where there seems some type of activity. We talked about terrace craters, walled areas. There's also an area which seems like there are reservoirs or constructions, irregular factions like we have in Southern California for water that when you look straight down on them at one particular point, you can see into them. At other times, from different angles, they're silvery, like reflection of water. So this is one in a series of perhaps 25 different pictures taken.
Pretty weird.
Different.
Pretty weird. I don't know if I can attach all the meaning that you just did to what I'm seeing, but it is weird looking. It's busy, I'll give it that. Very busy. There's a lot there. But I don't know that I could look at that and say that's construction.
Well, each one has to determine what they see in it, and then it also helps to see the rest of the photographs in conjunction with it in the series.
I wish it wasn't like a Rorschach test. I wish that,
Well, we have to remember, too, I mean, we're talking about a body 250,000 miles away, and you're going there in orbit, and and you have to get used to looking at things from above to look for the shadows where the sun reflects, where it's dark, and what have you. So it wouldn't be any different than flying at 70,000 feet or even much higher and determining geological features here.
Okay, this next one is really interesting. It's the last one in this series, and it says Lunar Orbiter 4, cloud hanging over left side of crater.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
is this one clear enough for you?
Actually, it does look like a cloud hanging over a crater. There's not supposed to be atmosphere on the moon. That's all there is to that. There's not supposed to be any atmosphere there. Now, if that's not a cloud, let's think, what the hell is it?
When you look at this picture, you can see there on the left-hand side, you can see very clearly as you follow the rim of this crater, as you come up to this obscuration, the rim stops and then continues on from underneath it from below, but also it casts a bit of a triangular shadow underneath the obscuration that hangs over the rim.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So once again, another photo to
go,
Yes, correct.
Over. You remember the obelisk in 2001?
Oh, yeah.
Many, many scientists believe that the moon very likely may have one of these, an object like an obelisk, or something that is intended to make a transmission or a communication when we, man, reach the moon and uncover it. I mean, they actually think this is a likelihood that an alien race would put something like that on the moon. What do you think?
It's possible. I can't say whether it would be or not. I mean, it's possible. Since we have no evidence of that, that's the best we can do. Leave it at that until we uncover it. Of course, it'll be difficult to uncover unless we really put together a united front and go back there and actually do something.
Well, now see you're on to something. Let me ask you about this. It has been that long since man has been to the moon. We haven't been back. There are a group of people, John Lear might be one of them, who believe, Glenn, that we were told not to come back. We were told to discontinue space travel, or we perhaps even were warned to discontinue space travel, and there are those who believe that's absolutely true. Do you?
I think the other way. I think that the exposure from space travel and the exposure to the possibilities out in space and the communications and what can be learned from that poses a change to our way of thinking and a change to our way of life, and we are very resistant to that change. In 1975, when the space program terminated, it terminated from lack of funds, it terminated from lack of interest, political will, et cetera, et cetera. But there's more to it than just that.